The opponent this weekend, it is the Holy Cross Crusaders, who will arrive here at 1-3. Their 3 losses by a combined 9 points. They have been in some tight games so far this season. For that, we bring on Kevin Gale, who's called many of these games on ESPN Plus for Holy Cross this year. Kev, thanks for hopping back on the show here today. Appreciate the time. And I think we got to start our conversation to go figure with something that has literally nothing to do with this game, but you called his games last year, this Matthew Sluka story. The ties are wild, right? What do you make of the whole thing, having watched this guy's whole career up to this point?
Yeah, it's great to be back on with you, Brian, and talk some more Holy Cross football. Yeah, I thought when we talked this summer that you'd have a good storyline here. You'd have Holy Cross one weekend at the Dome, and then the very next weekend, you'd have Matt Sluka coming in with UNLV and Barry Odom squad. All of you woke up to the same news I did earlier this week. You know, I had been following Matt, his ascension there. First time ever, UNLV is ranked in the top 25 in football. They're on the precipice of a Pac-12 invite, you know, a diminished Pac-12, but still, you know, places that we've never talked about UNLV football getting to. And Matt says, I'm stepping away. Promises were made. They weren't delivered. His family was echoing the same sentiment, and that's what I was hearing as well. But then UNLV comes back and says it's a different scenario. Now I'm reading storylines that maybe there were NIL donors from casinos that wanted to get involved, but Sluka had already stepped away from the team, so Barry Odom says we're going to pass the torch. The fact of the matter is that Matt Sluka is now a commodity, and I find this very fascinating because in my interactions with Matt Sluka, he was an outstanding high school lacrosse player who frankly came to Holy Cross with very little guarantee that he would play or that he would be a quarterback. He had to earn his opportunities. He was flexed in when Connor Dagenhart, back in the 2020 COVID-shortened season, really couldn't get the ball down the field, and Sluka basically came in as a run-only quarterback who was dynamic enough to make plays with his legs, and then from there, won over the team, won over the huddle, won over the locker room, started developing more of a downfield threat, became one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the country last year at the FCS level, and really never created any issues or headaches for his team or his coaches. So that's why this whole situation at UNLV is so surprising. It's clear that that chapter has ended, but he made the most of his opportunity. And Brian, I think now, based on what I'm hearing about the value of quarterbacks now in the NIL era going to Power 4 programs, he could be $1 million player next year. If a Power, how many leagues are we saying? Power 2.5 leagues want to go out and try to get him with an NIL deal. I mean, that's the kind of money that we're looking at. He's saying that he was promised $100K. I think it could be a lot more next year when he gets his, last opportunity at the college level. And I will say, I never want to write off a player's NFL prospects, but I think Sluka's in one of those situations where he's realizing this could be the one big paycheck I get in my football career, and it's just really hard for people to understand that that's now something that can happen at the college level.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Like, he wasn't getting paid at Holy Cross, and, you're out at UNLV, and whatever happened there, happened there. This is right. He's not going to be an NFL quarterback. He's not a great thrower of the football. Like, this is probably his only chance of getting paid, and you don't blame the kid, I guess, for trying to take advantage of it. It's just wild to see how it's all played out this week, right?
Absolutely, and I think it just – I was joking with some friends in business the other day. Someday we might be talking about a Sluka rule, because I think this is the first time people have seen widely how messy NIL is. A lot of promises, some of them kept, some of them not, nothing put down on paper. So I think eventually the NCAA or the colleges themselves are going to have to get more actively involved, take it on like a payroll, have contracts signed, guarantees. But as we all know, that creates a whole lot of other issues and headaches. I mean, Ryan Day at Ohio State is saying, I'm looking at $15 to $20 million of football payroll a year. That's what a top-notch, FBS program is probably worth now if you were to pay these players. So it's going to be interesting to see how this story starts to grow and other players start to look at what Matt Sluka did or how he was treated and decide how they're going to move forward. It could be a paradigm shift, Brian, and I'm just honestly shocked that it's Matt Sluka's name that's involved.
Yeah, go figure. The ties back to Holy Cross, their quarterback from the last few years, now formerly of UNLV. We see also it's a new head coach for Holy Cross this year. Bob Chesney's moved on to James Madison, just dropped 70 on North Carolina the other day, and Dan Curran's in as the new head coach. What has the process been like now? 4 games in, you're looking at 3 just nail-biter losses, right? How has the transition from Chesney to Curran gone here as we're through the first month of the year?
It's crazy, Brian. You could argue the 2 biggest stories in college football the last week have been Matt Sluka and JMU putting up 70 in Chapel Hill. I mean, don't forget, Bob Chesney had Boston College dead to rights last year in Chestnut Hill. Holy Cross should have won that game. Lightning was spotted somewhere. There's still some debate about how real that lightning delay was. Holy Cross had to go to the locker room for 2.5 hours. They come out, Sluka fumbles. That's the end of the game. They were ice cold at that point, and the stands were 90% Holy Cross fans. It was one of the most incredible things I'd ever seen. Until last week when, same thing, ACC Network goes off the air, 90% of the crowd at UNC is now wearing JMU purple. And I'm going, this is the Bob Chesney magic. This guy does it like nobody else. He builds belief. He knocks off ACC teams. This is what he does. Now, Dan Curran, similar path to Holy Cross as Bob Chesney had a lot of success at a nearby college with a lot less resources. For Chesney, it was a D2 Assumption. For Dan Curran, it was Merrimack, a team that came in and beat Holy Cross a couple years ago, fresh off their win at UConn. So Holy Cross had just beaten UConn. That was an FBS win. That was a huge opportunity for the program. Dan Curran comes in the next week with Little Merrimack from FCS with, a tenth of the budget of Holy Cross, and he gets the win at Fitton Field. So he's been a giant killer before. He's got a much different team this year. A lot of seniors left. A lot of those seniors are actually at JMU now with Bob Chesney, including most of the staff. But Curran has done a good job of keeping his teams in these early games. They were playing a very good UNH team, a Yale team that's a 2-time defending Ivy League champion. They took all those games down to the wire. They beat up on Bryant when they got the offense moving. But the biggest problem, Brian, is the injuries. Even in that one win, Dan Curran gets his first win on the road with Holy Cross. He loses arguably the best running back in the modern era at Holy Cross, Jordan Fuller, out for the season with a leg injury. So now you lose a lot of your advantage around the goal line, running between the tackles. Fuller has FBS caliber skills out of the backfield. The defensive line is all chewed up now. 3 sophomores injured day to day, week to week, including William Robinson from Ohio, who looks like he could be an FBS talent. The pass rush I'm worried about, especially going into this game at Syracuse where Dan Curran said, listen, this is definitely the most talented team that Holy Cross has seen in the last handful of years. So my concern for Holy Cross is they are not playing with a full allotment of talent. They don't have their best running back. It's going to be tough to get pressure on Kyle McCord. This is going to be a real uphill climb this weekend.
Kevin Gale here is our guest. We're talking a little Holy Cross. So we've now learned way more than we would have thought about your old quarterback in Matthew Sluka this week. Tell us about the new guy, Joe Pazansky, it looks like statistically is humming along pretty good this year, can sling it around a little bit. What's Joe bringing to the table?
Yeah, Pazansky is the complete opposite story in the NIL era. He had bounced around a lot as a kid. His dad worked for a rental car company and took a lot of jobs all over the country, finally lands with a great high school team in Tampa, Florida, and basically goes to Holy Cross. He's got a lot of friends telling him, hey, get out of there. Sluka's got the job. You're never going to get the reps you deserve. And he went the opposite way, Brian. He said, I bounced around a lot as a kid, Kevin. Like, I just wanted to have a family and a team that I knew and just a place to call home. So he waited for 3 years for his opportunity to be the starting quarterback at Holy Cross, got some opportunities last year when Sluka was hurt, had an amazing win at Fordham, proved he could push the ball down the field. That's always been his advantage against Sluka. Sluka can make magic. Broken plays, getting out of the pocket, throwing on the move. He's a better option. Pazanski's more of a pocket guy. And the way that they've been using him is really in a rhythm offense. They have unlocked Jacob Peterson, who for a long time was a blocking tight end, but in Andrew Dresner's offense, former coordinator at Stony Brook, they're really using him a lot more. They want to get the ball out quick, slants, quick stuff over the middle. And now Pazanski, as he gets more comfortable, Brian, is finally starting to throw the ball down the field. I really felt like against Yale, he had the confidence. You know, they lost Jalen Coker, who was just signed to the active roster with the Carolina Panthers. He was an FBS caliber wideout. He's going to be playing perhaps this Sunday with the Panthers, who need options for Andy Dalton. And I'm really excited to see what Holy Cross can do as they learn to get the ball downfield with a little bit more confidence through Pazanski, because they have burners. They have a Maxwell Warren. They have a Justin Shorter. They have guys that may look a little undersized but have some speed to run with that Syracuse secondary. It's just a matter of how that offensive line, which has a lot of upperclassmen but maybe not as much continuity as in years past, can really hold and protect, or hold the line, not hold, you get what I'm saying, but really protect Pazanski and give him enough time to get through his progressions, because that's where he was struggling a little bit earlier this season. You kind of look at option 1, panic on option 2 and 3. He's got to get through his progressions and get the ball down the field, because frankly, Holy Cross has nothing to lose in this game. I mean, they can throw it around a little bit in the dome, because frankly, there's no expectation here. They're not playing for a national seed in the FCS playoffs this year. They're really just focused on being the best they can be in the Patriot League, win that conference title, and then get the automatic bid into the playoffs.
All right, Kev, we'll see if they come out here and let it fly in the dome tomorrow at noon. Wild week for Holy Cross, past, present, and future, watching all the moving parts of the college football world. But thanks as always, Kev, for hopping on for a few. Enjoy the game tomorrow, all right?
All right. Thanks again, Brian. We'll see you soon.
There is Kevin Gale, calls the Holy Cross home games on ESPN Plus. So he's seen this team. He's seen, go figure, the story of the college football world. Matthew Sluka really get to the above the fold. Big headlines this week. Crazy time. So we'll get Eric Dungy's thoughts on all of this. Eric just missed out on the NIL time. I want to get his thoughts on all this, and, of course, the tough loss for Syracuse next week and what it's like to play these FCS games when you are the big favorite. Dungy's weekly visit after this here on Q Sports Talk and ESPN Radio.